the economy and the global trading system was one of the major foundations. And in that multilateralism, rooted in the WTO agreements of the mid 90s, has evolved over the 30 years, in which countries have not only expanded their trade and economic welfare across the globe, but have also found mechanisms for addressing any disputes that might arise. So Russia's point has always been, and I think that is not to be denied, that yes, they are the ones who invaded Ukraine, but the causa belli, as they call it, the reason for the belligerency is not the Russian invasion into Ukraine, but the rising threat to Russia from the steps taken by the West in expanding NATO and bringing the threat to the doorsteps of Russia in Ukraine.
Watch Federal Post. Bold and independent.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Talking Politics. I'm Hassan Zafar, and we have Dr. Zubair Khan Saab with us. Thank you very much, Dr. Saab, for joining us today. I would like to discuss the key takeaways from the SCO Summit, which ended yesterday in Tianjin, China. And if you like, I can share some major points that were in the declaration. The Tianjin Declaration of the SCO Council reaffirmed commitments to strengthen artificial intelligence cooperation, underscoring equal rights of all countries to develop and use AI. This is a very important thing, Dr. Saab. And if you have seen President Xi Jinping's full speech, and he also highlighted this very important thing, which he calls the Global Governance Initiative, GGI. Now, first we had BRI, now we have GGI, which has 5 points. One is, first is we should adhere to sovereign equality. Second, we should abide by international rule of law, in which he also invokes the UN Charter. And third, we should practice multilateralism. And fourth, we should advocate the people-centric approach. Fifth, we should focus on taking real actions. And if you combine it with President Putin's speech, so how does it look to you overall, the outcome of this summit?
Dr. Hassan, I think that the SCO conference has provided China and President Xi with an opportunity, which he has taken very firmly, to provide the entire world with an alternative framework for the world order. Now, we know that the global world order till now has been dominated by the US and the West. And that order seems to be crumbling because of some conflicts, but also because of the style of President Trump, in which he has taken on all his allies and everybody else and disrupted the very foundations of the existing global world order, in which the economy and the global trading system was one of the major foundations. And in that multilateralism, rooted in the WTO agreements of the mid 90s, has evolved over the 30 years, in which countries have not only expanded their trade and economic welfare across the globe, but have also found mechanisms for addressing any disputes that might arise. President Trump has just thrown it out of the window, just like he did with various other initiatives, like whether it was the climate change initiatives at the Tokyo summit, or whether it was the nuclear agreement with the Iranians. So is his ad hoc and arbitrary leadership especially on global matters, which impacts many countries, has shaken the foundations of the existing world order. Now, there was a gap that was arising in this. There was a huge vacuum that was arising. And I think that President Xi has taken advantage of this situation and has spoken of a more equitable and a more equal, just international world order. Now, he has this is going to play well with many countries of the world, and for that he has suggested various initiatives. Now, these are ideas which are still fledgling ideas, but the fact that he had a very good gathering in Tianjin, and leaders from different parts of the world were here, who represent practically, I understand, 25% of the global population.
That's
So
true.
he played a major role by providing that platform. So please go ahead with the further points that he has raised.
Well, another interesting thing is that President Putin, in his speech, responded to the uh, uh, Western narrative that Russia is an expansionist power and they have invaded Ukraine. No, we did not start this war. It was the Western ideology that was pushing us for this war for a long time, namely the situation in Ukraine and the West, the luring Ukraine into NATO. So that caused all the trouble. And so what we see that there is a whole anti-Western narrative emerging from SCO Summit.
Well,
Yes.
yeah. Well, I would say not really an anti-Western narrative, but to explain the existing conflict between NATO and Russia. And Russia has been, and President Putin has been very consistent in explaining this for the last many years, especially in the last 3 years, that the special military operation was in response to the security concerns of Russia regarding the continuous expansion of NATO eastwards. NATO had given assurances to Russia in the Minsk agreement and so forth that they would not expand eastwards. But that continued. And every time they did, Russia was not in a military or economic position to do anything about it. Now that the technological leaps that Russia has achieved in recent years, especially in its armaments and missile technology, has allowed Russia to finally draw the line when it came to Ukraine. And it's a historical fact that the destabilization of Ukraine and relations with Russia started after there was a coup in Ukraine in which they dethroned or removed the elected president at the time. So that is when the situation aggravated. Now, as the threat increased, Russia then ultimately responded. So Russia's point has always been, and I think that is not to be denied, that yes, they are the ones who invaded Ukraine, but the causa belli, as they call it, the reason for the belligerency is not the Russian invasion into Ukraine, but the rising threat to Russia from the steps taken by the West in expanding NATO and bringing the threat to the doorsteps of Russia in Ukraine. So they have done that, and this is a point on which I think the West and the Russian supporters will never agree on. This is the cause of the battle, and it is essentially to play to the public mind. And I think even people in the West are now beginning to see the historical aspects of it. We've heard very serious commentators like Professor Mearsheimer and others explain this, and there are many in the US, in American, and other think tanks who have been putting forward the same view that the continuing threats, and we've heard Jeffrey Sachs also be talking along the same lines, that the continuing
Yes.
threats to Russia from the eastern expansion of NATO
Hmm.
ultimately forced Russia to take action. And they are still saying that, look, we are ready to seize all military action if we can find a solution to the initial reasons why they entered the war, which is essentially that giving them the security that Ukraine would be a member of NATO.
Yes, yes. So two questions are emanating from your statement. One is pertaining to Pakistan and the other to India. So let's focus Pakistan first.
Yeah.
President, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif met President Putin, and where he said that we don't have any problem with your relationship with India. Uh, how do you read this statement? That he was trying to assure him that we, regardless of your policies with other nations, be those nations our rivals, we would still want to go ahead with our building relationship with you. Is that what he was saying? Because President
Well,
Putin also
yeah.
used the word, he also emphasized his interest in the Eurasian bloc.
Well, look, as members of SCO, India and Pakistan, I mean, the issue of having trouble with India being a member of an organization like SCO is absolutely irrelevant. Pakistan has to learn to live with those with whom they have border or other disputes. And
Hmm.
to carry that point to the making that point with Putin is rather odd, because Russia and India have had very strong and friendly relations for decades, just like our decades old relation with China. India is
That's
not
right.
going to tell China that, look, we don't mind if you have relations with Pakistan. These relations with of India and Russia are 3 4 decades old. That's number one. And secondly, that Pakistan has to find reasons for which will benefit Pakistan directly, as being part of any organization or having direct relations with Russia. It doesn't always have to be India centric. India has acquired a major role in SCO this time, which we all noticed, and it was in display because first Trump tried to woo India and then tried to threaten India with tariffs and punitive tariffs, which were totally unjustified, so as to bring them in line with American dictates. And
Hmm.
President Modi didn't take that, and he went over to the SCO and and openly displayed his desire to be part of this big grouping to the north of India, which is going to be beneficial to them economically and otherwise. So, but they didn't go all the way into the lap of China. Yes, they have tried to move closer to China. China was very forthcoming because, as I mentioned earlier, China has decided, Prince Xi has decided to play a more balancing act, because now he is literally casting himself as a global leader now, and as the SCO as a forum which would be providing a framework for the new world order. in that he can't have favorites. That is why in the declaration, when it came to the dimension of terrorism, they mentioned the incident in Pahalgram incident in India and the incidents in Pakistan. So the
Yeah,
point is that China has adopted a more balanced approach this time, and
that's
other
true.
member states have said this in the declaration, if I'm not wrong, that they said that we will not tolerate double standards on the part of any country. Now
Yes, it's in the
that
speech.
statement, by the way,
True.
is double-edged. It applies to both India and Pakistan. That listen, if you are going to complain about terrorism from your neighbor, then you will also have to refrain from doing anything that will give your neighbor any reasons to think that terrorism is coming from your side. So I mean, I think the declaration is been more balanced this time, and previously China has stood out in international fora and defended Pakistan, even defended organizations and people in Pakistan who have been the target of of Western and Indian pressure to be declared as terrorists. But China has stood by us. But now that China is preparing itself for a global leadership role, they have taken a more balanced view. And I think that is in the interest of both Pakistan and everyone in the region. That China,
Including
yeah,
India. And we
yeah,
don't have any problem if they want to have a relationship with China. Why should we have any problem?
yes,
But the problem, there are problematic areas between the two nations, India and China. But let's focus on the tariff part, if you like. You mentioned it. President Trump imposed 50% tariffs. You said it's unfair. Uh, but if you read yesterday's message on Truth Social, President Trump's, so it's not only the tariff. There is a lot of disdain in his statement for India. If you allow me to use the word, it's disdainful.
yes,
He has
absolutely.
serious dislike.
No,
Yes.
Trump has created a new kind of a norm in the global affairs. He goes from one extreme to the other. This has only hurt America's own diplomacy and their relations with its member states. Uh, Till just a month ago, 2 months ago, before the war with Pakistan, India was being shown as a very close ally of the United States, as a bulwark against Chinese expansion, against Chinese influence in the region. And
Hmm.
now suddenly, just because of Trump's own negotiating style and his very extreme methods of using various threats publicly against major countries, he has driven India into the lap of BRICS and SCO. India is also a member of BRICS. We remember this is India is
Yes.
a founding member. So when it comes to the global economic and world order, you must remember that the Western domination and hegemony, economic hegemony, is being challenged by BRICS, and now its regional influence in terms of security and political influence is being challenged by the SCO. So, in that, with India sitting with US's present rivals, Russia and China, and showing such camaraderie as was displayed over there, it's a big loss for the US. And I think this kind
I
of
would like
talk,
to understand. I would like to understand, Dr. Zubair, how does it appear to be a big loss for the U.S. Because if we look at simple maths, India earns all its money from the United States and Europe. What does India earn from China? What does India earn from Russia? India is only purchasing oil, giving money to Russia. China is selling the trade balance is entirely in favor of China between when it comes to India and China trade relations. Chinese are earning over $100 billion from India.
No, no.
What does India get from them, from these two states?
India's trade with the United States is huge. It's over $130 billion, of which Indian exports to the US are about 87 to $90 billion. So the US is a major market for India. But India has not withdrawn itself. I'm not defending India. I'm just saying that the
No
US
problem.
tactics seem to be illogical. By imposing 50% tariffs on Indian exports to the US, they had already hurt India so much. So all India did was provide political support to SCO by going and to be seen walking hand in hand with Putin, whom the West and NATO see as an adversary. Not that India is joining that war over there in any way, but these are the I would call this as a shift in global politics. This is a remarkable big shift in global politics, that major economies and countries of the world have suddenly teamed up and sat together and agreed, not teamed up, but agreed to work towards a new world order.
But we don't get this impression from President Xi's speech that he is creating a new world order. He is talking about the existing world order and bringing some kind of fair play in the world order that is already existing. He is not proposing a parallel financial system. He is interested in working within the existing financial system. The only thing that highlights from these statements from Russian and Chinese presidents that they want fair play. They don't want to accept Western dominance, but at the same time they don't want to challenge the existing financial system. So in that kind of scenario, how does India benefit from its relationship with a benefit in terms of economy? How does it benefit from Russia and China?
Yeah, first on your first point, yeah, I agree with you. China and Russia, they're more in favor of multilateralism. WTO is almost 30 years old as a framework for multilateral trade system. It is United States which is trying to dismantle it. So they want that order in which there was greater equality of treatment of member states. Similarly, the joint communique mentions that whatever will be done will be in the context of the UN Charter. So the UN Charter is being used. They are not, but these are, you see, the world existing economic order was dominated by the US and Western countries, where they sidelined the UN system, where they violated the WTO rules, where they they have a arbitrary way of dealing with member states on the nuclear proliferation issues, on climate issues. So they want an end to that kind of, shall we say, unilateralism, those kind of violations of those very agreements on which other member states are held responsible, but not those who are the initiators of those agreements. So the New World Order won't be a new set of organizations and treaties, but applying the existing system more fairly and more equitably. That is the purpose. Now, India, I guess, would benefit from the fact that the tariffs imposed on them would be, then they could take them to the dispute settlement issue in the WTO. I guess that is how they would see it. But you must remember that China and India still have their outstanding issues. And even if they were to resolve them, the emergence of China as a global power. So there would be three major powers in the multilateral, in the multipolar world: U.S., Russia, and China. Would is being seen in India as something that they would not accept. They do not accept the regional hegemony of China in Asia. So they have their sort of, I would say, fundamental and basic differences. I think that, but as an economic power, India has a certain role to play over there. While Pakistan, uh, unfortunately, we remain relevant in all of this debate only on the issue of terrorism. We need to go beyond that. What is our contribution? Positive one. And what is our mention in the entire declaration? Although, despite the very close relationship that Pakistan has with China, I mean, we literally, as a younger brother, but we have failed to utilize this moment to project ourselves as a country that is provides a positive membership contribution to the membership.
Hmm. Hmm. Would you like to elaborate this point a little further? Was there any lack of enthusiasm with regard to Pakistan uh, within the SCO? Uh,
No,
that
no. I think that Pakistan received adequate and good response from all the world leaders. Our prime minister met with all of them. Russia has also invited our prime minister to the next heads of state of the SCO. No, no, not in that sense. I'm saying that
hmm,
our importance in the region. I mean, we are a country that is always uh, in a crisis of debt. We will soon be looking for rollovers of previous loans. We are not
hmm,
a country that is increasing its exports. We have cut down on imports. Everyone knows that we have internal issues of political issues. We have suppressed various parties. We have adopted various measures which are unconstitutional. We are dabbling in the affairs of the independence of the Supreme Court and the High Judiciary, and these things people are not, other countries are not blind to this. So that weakens Pakistan's stature as a country which is following the rule of law, which is in support of all of these things. We are simply trying to play one superpower like the US against China and so forth. We're trying to play on our, what we keep on saying as our strategic location. That can't be the basis for the strength of Pakistan. I mean, that's an accident of birth, shall we say. But I mean, what are we doing? Are we a country with the rule of law, where there is constitutionalism, where there is industrial development, where there is investment? We have been trying so hard for the last 3 years to bring in foreign investment. We have not
but
succeeded.
hasn't happened.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I
uh,
mean, we need to
yes,
strengthen our own home front. We need to do better at home. Then we'll stand tall amongst the other nations and be able to. We don't have to be of the same economic strength in one day. But what I mean is that we should at least be independent and not dependent on many of these countries for aid and support. So I think that we have to start looking at things slightly differently and not through the lens of terrorism all the time. That we are suffering from the floods. Oh, we
it
are
makes it
suffering from terrorism.
it
And we
makes
are
it
not. Climate change impact is also being exaggerated in Pakistan. We are suffering floods, but many of the causes are uh, home created, our own policy mistakes.
That's right. That's right. So, what I understand from your comment is that our own economic situation and the way we are handling our affairs and the political situation in the country. And so it does not, it figures somewhere in the bilateral relations with other countries, even in leadership talks, when our political leadership meets the leadership of the other countries, they have this thing somewhere at the back of their minds that this political leadership does not have very popular public support. So it affects the level of interaction in some way. Is that what you?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yes, of course, it makes a difference. Pakistan is a big country, and thank God we are. The huge population, the economy, though not very rich, but is still sizable. So there is a certain, shall we say, respect for Pakistan as a country, no doubt about it. But I think
Yes,
that if our government and the institutions were according to the law and had withstood the test of the democratic selection and so forth, we would be standing tall amongst these nations.
certainly. Totally agree with you. It will make our political leadership look even better and more
Yeah.
confident when they are talking to the leaders of other nations. Thank you very much, Dr. Zubair, for your time today. Thank you very much for watching for the office in Pakistan.